Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. It's week 15. We're going to go over some questions from my chat right here on Twitch. We're going to get their questions. I'm going to give them my best answers for this week to help them build lineups and hopefully help you build lineups as well for this kind of tough 11-game slate this weekend. A lot of the best teams are off the slate. The Chargers played on Thursday night. The Chiefs played on Thursday night. The Rams are not on this slate. So a lot of the places that we look to, the teams that really have these elevated team totals and game totals with massive offense, and the players that we lean on week in and week out just aren't on this slate. So that leaves us having to make some decisions that we're not usually used to making. That's going to put you in an uncomfortable position at probably one or more spots in your lineups in GPPs, and it's going to force you to get outside of your comfort zone, which is something that you're going to have to get used to doing if you want to be successful in daily fantasy. You can't just play the soft, warm blanket every time and expect for that to win you a tournament. You got to get a little bit out of your, out of your box, out of your bubble, and make some plays that are contrarian without being stupid, right? Oh, this guy's going to be 0.1% owned, so I'm just going to play him and hope that he scores 3 touchdowns. That's not the type of plays that I'm talking about. We're going to try and uncover some players that might be in fortunate situations or situations where they're going to get more volume. Players that you may not know, may not be household names, but are going to run a whole lot of routes this week, might get some more targets. Running backs that are backing people up, or possibly just going with a team jam and min lineup and finding the value where it lays. So, without any further ado, let's bring in the chat and let's get right to it. Best cash game QB. I mean, you got to kind of give me a couple of people to go off of and not just like, give me a lineup. Right? You got to give me something to go off of here. Mullins and Kittle, terrible idea. I don't hate it, but Kittle is in a spot where there is a tough defense facing him. Seattle's very good against opposing tight ends. They've held a lot of tight ends team tight ends under 12 points a game. They're one of the stingiest, most stringent tight end defenses in the league. In terms of DVP versus position, although that can be somewhat noisy. But once you get a large enough sample size, we're in week 15, they're a tough defense to go against. So Kittle's targets might outweigh that, but this is a spot where he may not really ceiling it out, but there is that touchdown possibility for him. Less of a cash game play for me, more of a tournament play. Hopkins bounce back week, I kind of don't hate that. If you want to line up Tweet Adam Levitan, he'd be happy to help. Hey, there you go. Carr and Cook for cash. Cook always makes me nervous. You guys know that, right? So, like, playing Cook, here's where the tight ends sit, right? So, Kittle's at 6,300. Why did that do that? Okay. Cook's at 5,600. Kittle's at 63. Ebron's at 59. And Gronk is at 58. So Cook has had 2 really good weeks in terms of volume, considering that all the pass catchers are out for the Raiders, and they're dealing with like the corpse of Jordy Nelson and Marcel Aitman and Seth Roberts, the weapon, and all those sorts of guys, which has led to a couple of games back-to-back where Cook has had 7 catches on 18 targets. 14 catches on 18 targets, 7 catches per game. My issue with Cook, as always, this is probably where his volume should be with the current receiving core. And in this matchup where Cincinnati just can't stop anything, right? The problem is it bounces around so much. 9, 5, 8, 6, 10, 2, 5, 2, 13. His volume's all over the place. As opposed to, for 300 more, somebody like Eric Ebron, who when Doyle has been out, has absolutely feasted, including this week where Doyle was in and he got 7 targets because all the other tight ends were out. So he saw more snaps and ran more routes in week 12. And then Doyle out 16 targets, 8 targets. Doyle out for these 3 weeks, 4 weeks here, 11 targets, 10 targets, 15 targets, 7 targets. The consistency, the floor, and the quality of the quarterback for Eric Ebron is so much greater than that of Jared Cook that for only 300 more you can get Eric Ebron, and for me it's very simple. Kenny Stills thoughts. Yeah, I like Kenny Stills this week. 2 always going to be a high profile guy, always going to be a high ceiling guy, always going to be a dude that can get deep and behind the defense and score you a long touchdown and pay off his salary on just one play. We know that. Now, because of everybody else that's injured for the Dolphins, he's seeing more time. He's getting more targets. So now you've got a guy who's got the same massive ceiling that he's always had, but his floor was always very low because he could get a 2, 3, 4 target game with 2 catches, and maybe one of them's 20 yards and he gets like 35 yards on 2 catches. Now you have a situation where he's going to see 6, 7, 8, 9 targets. So his floor is elevated. His ceiling remains the same. And against the defense, it's in the top 10 in the league in terms of benefiting wide receivers on touchdowns on long passes, ones that travel more than 15 plus air yards. He's in a really good spot again this week, and he's only 4,300. So yeah, I'm fine with Stills for a value price. Rodgers too cheap. Bears defense, man. The quarterbacks are going to be, the quarterbacks are all bunched up, right? So like Russ is the top guy, but could possibly throw it 20 times this week. Could throw it 35, but could throw it 20, right? And if he doesn't throw 3-4 touchdowns on 20 pass attempts and maintain this off the charts effectiveness and efficiency that he's had, who knows? Roethlisberger I like a lot better at 6,600. Andrew Luck at 64 is fine. Matt Ryan at 61 is popping in a few models. Trubisky at 6K against Green Bay's pass defense, which has been bad. Lamar Jackson, if you want to go up against Tampa Bay, I don't like him as much as somebody like Josh Allen. I think that Pittsburgh-New England game most likely to shoot out, and obviously we've got a situation where the entire Patriots pass-catching core is finally healthy, giving Tom Brady more players to throw the ball to because he spreads the ball out so well, and then for Belichick and that offensive coordinating staff to put them in situations where they can scheme to get him passing options against Pittsburgh, even though there's somewhat of a stingy defense. I like this as a bounce back spot for Tom Brady. Josh Allen at 5,800. Aaron Rodgers is 57. And then Dak Prescott at 55. Like, it's tough to just say, well, okay, I'm going to pay down to get Aaron Rodgers on the road against a really tough defense that's stifled opposing quarterbacks so far, with all those other quarterbacks within 500 of his price in multiple touchdown situations. I can't see Aaron Rodgers putting up a 30 to 35 point day. I could see Aaron Rodgers putting up between a 14 and a 22 point day, but I could see a whole lot of other wide receivers putting up a 14 to 22 point day too. So I don't know that I want to go that route. Hilton or Cooper and Cash. Well, right now it's Cooper because Hilton may or may not go. The important thing is you won a game of Fortnite and you're the GOAT. Well, there you go. Xander, thank you for the 500 bits and using the hashtag charity. Raising money for direct relief through Twitch.
Thoughts on Gronk? Matchup is great, but do you really buy it after his first good game since week 1?
Okay, so Gronk to me is still tournament only. I know that Pittsburgh is softer against tight ends than they are against other positions, so I get that there's touchdown upside there with Gronk. Although Julian Edelman has seen a ton of targets inside the 10 and looks like a preferred target, Tom just trusts him, so he goes to him a lot once they get close. I think Gronk is fine for tournaments. I know he's only had the one good game so far this year, but I think this game has the most touchdown potential of pretty much any other game on the slate. Fournette, Lindsey, Dalvin Cook, and Survivor. Survivor, what Survivor? I'm confused. Ryan Edelman or Ben Hilton, DK Cash. I'm in a holding pattern on Hilton right now, so Ryan and Edelman. I will find your allocation on Sunday, but is there such thing as too much Boyd this week? Yeah. I love Boyd as a pivot play, as a leverage play off of the Joe Mixon ownership, which is going to be massive. Favorite wide receivers in the 4 to 5K range for DK GPP? 4 to 5K. So they just announced that that Djax was out earlier. So like Godwin is in play, but again, really tough defense. Probably going to avoid that. Calvin Ridley. Larry Fitzgerald, not all that exciting. Westbrook is interesting based on his recent usage for 4,500. Getting more snaps with other players in the doghouse. Mohamed Sanu, if you want to gather up some easy targets, but the upside isn't massive. But against Arizona, you usually see a lot more runs. I know a lot of people are targeting Tevin Coleman. I mean, it's just kind of a wasteland down in here. If Flacco is starting, I would have really liked John Brown. I know that a lot of people, we were talking about it before we started recording this segment, are going to go after Shepard if OBJ is out. But again, 6 targets. It's okay. It's not great. Nothing I really want to sink my teeth into. Anthony Miller, love the talent, hate the targets. Kenny Stills is probably my favorite. Taylor Gabriel, another one of my favorites in this situation. Consistent targets, 7, 8, 9 targets each of the last 4. Zay Jones as well, 4,200. Got a whole bunch of people donating bits to the channel and using that hashtag charity as well, so that money does get added to, you're making Twitch donate money to charity as well. JPL, thank you for the 100 bits. And Fleck56, thank you for the 100 bits as well. Edelman this week in the Keenan Allen spot versus Pittsburgh. Yeah, Edelman is going to be a very popular play this week, and I'm fine with that. C5 Roller, thank you very much for the 2 months in a row. Would I fade the Tampa Bay wide receivers in cash? Yes, I don't like playing players against Baltimore unless they're on Kansas City. The only team that I'm really excited to play players, or I'm just okay playing players against Baltimore's pass defense, are going to be guys on the Chiefs, and they already played them, so it's not on the slate anymore. And we said play Kelsey against the Ravens, and everybody said, yeah, but they're a really tough defense. Like, yeah, but you see, they're the Chiefs. Stratcast question for Keenan Allen disaster team. Stay pat with normal high-end running backs and go less zone mid. I mean, you're going to have to differentiate somewhere. You're going to have to find some way to differentiate in those Thursday through Monday lineups. Am I good with Jackson or Allen for cash? I mean, I'm okay with Allen for cash. Not really a big fan of Josh Jackson here in this spot, even though I know he's super duper cheap. Can I discuss going 2 stud running backs with 1 stud with Mixon? Hold on, I need to start the music again. There. Can I discuss going 2 stud running backs versus 1 stud with Mixon for DK Cash? I mean, it depends which one you're going to go with, right? Because I assume you're starting with Elliott, and then it comes down to, do you want to pay up for Saquon Barkley or come down to Leonard Fournette for almost $2K cheaper, $1,900 cheaper, or somebody like David Johnson or Dalvin Cook? I think those are basically going to be the main combinations. Is Ezekiel Elliott with one of Jalen Samuels, Leonard Fournette, David Johnson, Dalvin Cook, and Joe Mixon, with Joe Mixon being the highest owned guy. So, you're going to see a lot of the first 2, Elliott and Mixon, and then one of those other guys peppered in with them, in my opinion. Mixon, Barkley, Elliott, play the dudes. Yeah, you can. I just think there are other dudes. Barkley's as good as they come in terms of fantasy right now, basically giving you 20 fantasy points a week. I just don't think that the touchdown upside is all that high. His big playability is definitely there, but then it leads you to a situation where you're going to rely on another 40 or 50 plus yard touchdown. Thoughts on Henry at 5K versus Samuels at 5,200? I prefer Samuels because of his increased usage in the passing game. Samuels may not get 15 to 20 carries, but he's probably going to see 5 or 6 catches. Against a team that really doesn't do a great job of stopping running backs from catching the ball or after they catch the ball. And the Patriots are one of the worst teams in the league in terms of yards before contact when he does run the ball. So this is a really good situation. However, again, we're in a holding pattern now because Connor was upgraded to questionable for this week, and we'll see if he plays or if he doesn't. Raider Nation, thank you for the 500 bits. Sick has a good question. I missed it. Strategy question. You're in Thursday through Monday, main event satellite. 4 players overplayed and 3 used Allen. You didn't. Do you play more conservative high floor players now? Yeah, you just want to get, if a bunch of players used a dead player in the Thursday night game, a player that didn't score well in the Thursday night game, you essentially just want to pile up as many points as you can because they're drawing they've got a big fat 7K 0 in their lineup. Or a nothing burger, I should say. Lamar or Allen in cash? Give me Allen because of the higher passing upside. They have very similar rushing upside, similar touchdown expectation, but 70 to 100 more passing yard expectation from Allen versus Lamar. Lamar just basically tops out at 150 yards. Vernon Davis in play? Most definitely. At 3,200, Vernon Davis is certainly in play. Do I buy the home road splits for AB and Juju? AB has been better at home this year. Juju, super small sample size, right? Like that's massive small sample size theater. You're talking about like 6 and 6. I know that people are looking for a snapback with AB because he had the lower game last week. Over the last 3 weeks, Juju is out targeted Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown's still a great receiver, but Juju, now that he's moved outside from the slot, is seeing a ton more targets and more effective targets and higher ADOT targets. So his explosiveness is really being put on display on a week in, week out basis. So I like paying up for 3 running backs and pay low end receivers this week. Mixon, Fournette, David Johnson. I don't think you're paying up that much if you play Mixon, Fournette, and David Johnson. It's about $20K, leaving you $30,000 for the rest of your lineup. I mean, average salary per player is $5,500. If you plug in just a $3,000 defense, your average salary goes up to $5,800, over $5,800, almost $59,000. And now you're saying on 3 running backs, you're spending just over $6,000, so you're not really spending all that much. If you're spending like $25K on your 3 running backs or $24K on your 3 running backs, now that's a whole lot. But if you're telling me you're saving another $4,000 to spend somewhere else in your lineup by going with those 3 guys over using somebody like Ezekiel Elliott or Zeke and Barkley, then yeah, I think you have plenty of money to spend on some other players. But the standard lineup build that has been successful over the past few years on DraftKings has been to spend up for 70 targets or 70 touches out of your running backs and then find guys at wide receiver who are value guys that can get you 5+ targets as much as you can, and then fit in a cheapish quarterback and a cheapish tight end. That's what we try and do on First Look every single week. That's been my kind of cash game build for the last few years, with some variation here or there when the opportunities present themselves based on value, but like with no super 20 carry running back that's like sitting at 5K or below. If you're going to jam in guys that are super high priced, then, you've got Mixon at 6,100. You have David Johnson, who should get 20 to 25 at 7,100. And it's 7,600 or 7,500. Leonard Fournette, who should see 25 targets or 25 touches. Is Trent Sherfield versus Atlanta a viable option for savings? I think that people are looking that way. I think there are some other guys down there as well that are at least palatable or at least in play a little bit. Kid on Buffalo. We've already talked about Taylor Gabriel. I didn't talk about, but I looked at him when I was talking about the other guys. Zay Jones, seeing a bit of an expanded role. Just there's 2 guys there right now. Zay Jones and the other kid. Taylor Gabriel getting significant targets for his price, and his price hasn't come up, and he's still got touchdown upside. For the Saturday slate, who do you prefer straight up, Landry or Chubb versus Denver? Probably Landry.
Thanks for answering my questions these last 3 weeks.
No problem,
Hope
Mike and
we
Hess.
smash it this week. #charity.
Thank you very much for the 500 bits. Appreciate that, and I appreciate the kind words. Not a problem. I'm always here. Chubb has done well against stacked boxes, and Denver's really stacked the box a lot the last 3 weeks. That's via Graham Barfield on NFL.com. But And during that time, Denver has really been a lot better the last 3 weeks against the run in terms of limiting opponents. But Chubb has been very good against stacked boxes so far, because they're going to see a lot of them with a rookie quarterback and a running back that's getting it 20+ times a game. T-Money, just finished watching 20 ads on your behalf. Not charity, only Al. But you see, the money's going to go to charity anyway, because I'm going to donate those 100 bits to Dr. Lupo's stream on the 22nd. So you did donate to charity, you just didn't realize it. But I appreciate the thought. Viable cash game QBs 5,500 and down. I'll look. 5,500 and down. Dak Prescott's okay. Derek Carr going to Cincinnati. Sure. Eli Manning, no. Jeff Driscoll against Oakland. If he's going to have a game where he gets you 15 fantasy points, this would be the one. Mariota against the Giants at 5,100. Maybe. Maybe. He's so up and down. This is the problem. though quarterbacks used to be up to like 7,500 or 7,800. Now when they're topping out at 6,700 and 66, you're getting a lot of value in this range between 64 and 5,500. They're like, you really don't have to come down here to find somebody. I mean, Mullins at 48 against Seattle, I'm okay with. I'm not thrilled, but I'm okay with it. I know people are going to go with Josh Johnson down at 4,300, but it's not something that excites me. I don't think we need it either. Bisarekia, thank you for the 15 months in a row with a tier 2 sub.
Every week. Thank you, Al.
No, man, thank you for being a part of it from over a year ago. Since right around the beginning when I got a sub button. Is Nick Foles viable for anything? Not for me. Callaway, Higgins, or Hamilton, Sunday, Slate, DK, GPP. I mean, Deshaun probably has the highest floor. Callaway might have the highest ceiling there. Lowest volume QB is the highest priced. And Godwin didn't change. Yeah, Godwin's price should be around 4,200 against, and so should Humphreys. Those prices should have come down against Baltimore, the toughest pass defense in the league for like the last 2 or 3 years. This isn't something that's jumped up, and surprised us. Thoughts on Wilson Jr. for cash if Breida is out? Yeah, I'm fine with that. I don't know that you need it, but if Breida's out, yeah, I don't hate it, considering that with Breida out, he gets over 20 touches. Godwin's going to get 10 targets and 0 catches this time. Maybe. We'll see. Pettis, Zay Jones, or Gallman, DK Cash to save for all the dudes. Probably the wide receivers, Pettis or Zay Jones, in that order. I'd prefer Pettis to Zay Jones. With Shady potentially back, does that affect how you look at Zay Jones and Foster? No. Not really. Are Pettis and or Shepard cash viable? I'd like Pettis over Shepard. Big Ben, Gallup. Gallup's another one who's cheap. That's probably the best wide receiver on the slate under 4K. RSJ or Carr, Shepard, and Uzoma. The first one. Like by a long margin. By a big margin, the first one. Thoughts on Samuel if no Connor and cash? Yeah, I like Samuel if no Connor. If Connor is out again this Sunday, then I really like Samuel. He gives you a little bit of savings. You can come down to 5,000. If you want to play Zeke, Mixon, Samuels, you're not going to get your 70 touches because Samuel's not going to get 20 plus. But for the price and his involvement in the pass game, you kind of don't need to satisfy things, and it allows you to come up at either tight end or wide receiver. I mean, you can if you get Samuels in there with Connor out, you can kind of prioritize getting to somebody like Ebron or Cook or one of the high dollar tight ends, and then mix that in with the value wide receivers who should get you 6+ targets in the 4K range. If Connor's in, are you playing him? That is an interesting question. If Connor's in, we're going to have to really figure out what type of snap percentage they're going to play him if he's in. Like if he's going to play and he's going to get his usual volume from before. Because the last few weeks, I mean, look, his volume had been kind of tapering off, guys, right? Like against the Chargers, 18, 17, 15, 14. It was not here where he was getting 20 to 30 touches a game, right? This is the Connor that we want from those first 8-9 weeks of the season. We don't want this Connor from the last 4 weeks that has gotten less than 20 touches in each of his last 4 contests and now coming off of an injury that held him out of one of those games. It kind of makes me hesitant, at least until we find out what's going on with that injury. I can't make a call on Friday afternoon with him being questionable. We'll know if he's going to be active or inactive. You probably won't know by lock time because they don't have to announce it until an hour and a half before the game. So we won't know until about 3 p.m. Eastern time. So you're going to want to, if you're going to play him in your tournament lineup, set up a hedge, whether it's a 1v1 swap by putting him in your flex spot, or whether it's a 2v2 swap where you're playing Connor and somebody else in a late game where you can immediately swap to 2 other plays where based on the amount of salary that you're spending on those 2 guys that you have your if-then statement played out in case Connor, you're saying, I'm going to play Connor here because I think he's going to be lower owned than expected because we won't have a designation on him for active versus inactive by the time lock comes around, unless they just announce early like some teams do on Friday, but they didn't do that. They said he's questionable, which means they don't have to let us know on Sunday morning when I'm on for the anti-Tinkercast or anything, so we may not know. And if we don't know, you need to set yourself up to be flexible in case Connor is out. Is the best advice that I can give you in that situation. Ellington and Kerryon Johnson both out. Can we expect Galladay to do well? I don't think we can ever expect Galladay to do well. Death to Hippies, thank you very much for the 100 bits and using the hashtag charity to gift some of that to Direct Relief. $78,700 now raised for that charity through Twitch. So thank you very much for using that. What I mean when I say
Hashtag
Call,
charity
thank you.
D. Johnson, a Jones, or D. Cook. Cash.
Give me Johnson, then D. Cook, personally. I'll take David Johnson and then Dalvin. So to answer that question about can we expect Galladay to do well, Galladay, when he's been the only guy, has not done really well. Galladay's biggest games have come this year when Tate and MJJ were on the field, right? It's a lot different scenario. I think he's a fantastic talent. He's a tremendous athlete. He's a great player, all those sorts of things. But there's a big difference when a defense is only geared to stop you and puts their best cornerback on you and rolls coverage to your side. It's a much different situation than when they have to deal with a talented running back in the backfield and two all-pro caliber wide receivers on the outside, and then you get to kind of roam free and find empty spots in the zone, or you're getting a nickel cornerback guarding you. It's a different situation. I just don't think that he hasn't shown the ability to be consistent and take advantage of those spots where he theoretically should get the lion's share of the targets, right? And this isn't new. That's not, I don't think that that's like, Al's got like a hot take. No, it's not a hot take at all. 3 games in double digits. One of them over 20 fantasy points. I still think he's overpriced. I do. He's overpriced based on reputation and cognitive biases, based on this early in the season. Because this player right here in this column is not who he's been here. Yes, he was him again here and here. Not here, not here, not here, not here, not here. 5 of the last 7 weeks have been a bust. And his price hasn't really moved down all that. It's moved down from here where he was in the mid 6s. But he's at best right now a $4,700 wide receiver on DraftKings. And he's priced way differently, as opposed to somebody like Taylor Gabriel or Kenny Stills. Taylor Gabriel down here, 4,200, bust, more consistent targets though, solid, way more consistent targets though. If I'm going to get that same floor to ceiling combination out of a player, right? If I'm going to get that same floor to ceiling combination, a guy who could score 25 to 35 fantasy points, but also get me a 4 to 5, and that is right now Galladay and Taylor Gabriel's possibility. And I don't think that Taylor Gabriel is anywhere close to as good a wide receiver on skill set or talent as somebody like Kenny Galladay. But in terms of fantasy, they do have the same range of outcomes. And one is 54 or 5,700 and the other one is 4,200. I'm going to go with the guy that's 42. Now, if I've got 1,200 left in a lineup that's got Taylor Gabriel and you can just, the easiest upgrade is to get to Kenny Galladay, then fine, then go that route. But like in a 1v1, just kind of looks the way it is. With OBJ out, is Saquon the indubitable number 1? I still think that it's Zeke. I still think Zeke at 400 less against Indy, who plays really fast, plays up in pace, throws the ball a ton, and Ezekiel's going to get 25 touches and 5-6 of them in the passing game. Indy has not been all that stingy against opposing running backs in the passing game. Zeke is the number 1 running back this week to me in terms of overall projectability, and then Mixon is going to be the highest owned because matchup, volume last week, and salary. The combination of those 3 kind of puts him in that situation. Best defense from 2,500 to 3K, probably the Bears at 3K. Josh Johnson only needs like 150 yards, a touchdown, and 30 yards rushing for value, though. Yeah, for value, but like, do you need the extra salary? is what, like you have to kind of weigh that. You have to say, all right, do I need this? Because some weeks you do, and you're like, I can't fit these guys that I want or that I need without going all the way down at one position. I think that you can build a lineup that is somewhat solid and still get, there's guys that are just kind of too cheap, like if we plug Barkley, if we plug Elliott and Mixon, which I think most people are going to do, find a quarterback in this range, just any quarterback in this range, right? Like Allen or Trubisky, whatever. Find for Josh Allen. Wide receivers. We talked about a couple, right? So we talked about Gabriel. We talked about Stills. Tight end. Probably a lot of people going to be on somebody like Ebron. Defense. Ravens are 3K. Fine, whatever. Leaves you 5,800 for 2 more spots. You could fit one of those running backs in another cheap wide receiver. You could fit a high dollar wide receiver and a cheap running back. There's so many different ways that you can go this week that I don't know that we need to come down to 4,300 from one of the 5,500 to 6,500 quarterbacks. I don't think we need to do that. Now in tournaments, I'm fine with that. But in terms of a cash game build, I don't think we need to do that. Nick Foles week. He can throw for 500 yards when it matters. Maybe. Maybe not. Steve Boyne, thank you very much for the 100 bits and using the hashtag charity in the chat. Cash game question, Boyd and Ebron versus Juju and Uzoma or any of the cheap tight ends. I'd prefer Boyd and Ebron. Courtesy of Field Yates. Players with more than 50 catches and 1 or 0 drops. Antonio Brown, Stephon Diggs, Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, Larry Fitzgerald, Taylor Gabriel. He catches what's thrown his way, essentially. Do I prefer AB or Juju and GPPs? I'll probably have equal shares of both, but I'm more on Team Juju this week. I don't think that the Pittsburgh passing offense is that predictable anymore, where it used to be you played twice as much AB and then some Martavis Bryant, right? Or last year, twice as much AB and some Juju. Now, Juju has as much 30-point potential as Antonio Brown does, and it's impossible to predict which one is going to have that day on any single week. So I kind of have, and it's been the same thing I've done with Humphreys and Godwin, where in tournaments, I'll probably have some similar share of both because their projectability and their salaries are very close. And I know that one of them is going to have a big day, but I don't know which. So I've kind of been plugging both and hoping that both of them catch at least 1 touchdown with 6 to 8 catches. Pettis or Dede, or am I doing it wrong? No, both of them are okay. Jeff Wilson, DK Cash, only if Breida is out. Playing 3 sub 4K wide receivers viable in cash. We'd rather get up to 1 of Hilton or Edelman or Juju. If you can get up to Hilton, Edelman, or Juju, I'd prefer one of those guys as on top of getting a lot of volume at your running back spots. Shy Sox, thank you for the 500 bits. Fair enough. So, it's basically a tournament philosophy. I used to do the same thing a couple of years ago with Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, where I'd have a bunch of lineups with both of them, right? Because both of them could theoretically go off, even though on the correlation matrix you look at, it's okay, running back 1 does not correlate with wide receiver 1, but that encompasses every single running back and every single wide receiver on the same team ever. And while some teams only run the ball and don't throw, and some teams only throw the ball and don't run, you have teams like them last year, or like the Giants this year with Barkley and OBJ, where both of those guys can have monster games based on volume at their positions. So are they correlated? No. But are they mutually exclusive? Also no. So Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown aren't correlated well together. A wide receiver 1 and a wide receiver 2 necessarily are not correlated well together, but if that team scores over 30 points, and judging by how much the scoring can come from those two, especially in a situation with James Conner possibly being out again, Roethlisberger to Juju to Antonio Brown, I don't hate that triple stack, especially to differentiate yourself in tournaments.
No question, just the giving season. # charity.
Appreciate that, Pongopolis. Thank you very much for giving to the stream, as well as to charity, raising even more money for direct relief. Where'd that question go? I just missed it. There was a question about Gallup and Dede and something else, and it disappeared on me. In Survivor, you can use each player once. My opponents all have Juju left, and you have AB. Should you use Cooper in case Juju outscores AB, or go with AB? I mean, AB projects higher than Cooper. So I would just go with AB and pray that he has a big game versus Juju this week. JJ Nelson GPP week. I don't know. You got to sell me on that one because I wasn't on that. Tell me why. Do I like Boyd, Pettis, or Edelman, Pascal, assuming that TY is out? I haven't thought about Pascal yet. I think I like the Edelman, Pascal side, or Edelman and somebody in that range. I really, really, really like Edelman this week. Rank Dede, John Ross, Gallup, and Robert Foster for DK Cash. Probably Gallup, then Foster, then Dede. Like, I'm not a John Ross in cash guy. I'm fine with John Ross in GPP. I'm not a John Ross in cash guy. Have a soft spot for Pascal since your buddy's friends with him. Okay, fair enough. And he did score last week. That's true. But, like, what's his price this week? Is he bare minimum? He's 3,200. Like, I'd rather see if I can get up to Gallup at 36. Driscoll, Boyd, Uzoma stack. No, I'm not an Uzoma guy. I've never been an Uzoma guy. I'm fine with Driscoll, Boyd, Mixon, though. Boyd and Davis, or Ebron and Nelson for cash. Boyd and Davis, if you're going that route. That would probably be the way that I'm going to go. Like, if you asked me, like, which one do you want in your GPP lineups, that's the one that I'd have. You'd steam out some Pascal just for fun. Yeah, no. If Hilton's out, I'm fine with Pascal. I still think Gallup is a better play head-to-head versus Pascal. Will Dak ever actually hit Gallup? I mean, eventually. One day. Why not this week? If Arizona is down a ton against the soft Atlanta D, Nelson played 70% of snaps last week with 7 targets. Okay. See, that's a good sell. Thank you. I like that. The problem is Rosen. The kid hasn't looked all that great. Marcel Aitman in a GPP, it's a little thin. He's got touchdown upside, but he doesn't have big play upside. So, like, they have to march into the red zone and then set up plays to get him the ball once they're inside the 10-yard line, because that's really where he eats, considering that he's a 6'4", big-bodied wide receiver that can't really get loose or get by people, but he can box people out and out-jump people. 100% chance Pete plays Tevin Coleman this week in the 3-man. It's possible. Uzoma or RSJ in a DK GPP, I would prefer Ferkser there. Exactly, Reticle. That's the guy that I would probably go with if I was punting tight ends. He's my favorite tight end punt. That's 3K or below. If you have the extra 300 to get up to somebody like Vernon Davis, I would prefer Vernon Davis there. Dak has overthrown Gallup so many times. I mean, yeah, but like I can't. You want the opportunity, right? In daily fantasy and in all fantasy, you're looking for the opportunity more than anything else.
Sorry, Al, missed the stream. Thanks again as always, and big props for the charity. For Steelers, which WR do you prefer? Juju targets have been crazy this past month.
I prefer Juju. I think Juju's the better option this week because of the price difference, 500 less, because of the out targets, because of his explosiveness, because his yards per target are much higher than somebody like Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown having a good year in terms of countables, but a bad year in terms of the metrics versus himself. Not versus any other wide receiver. Versus his own history, he's having a down year for himself. On the metric side of things, I prefer Juju Smith-Schuster this game. With Vernon, aren't you scared of Josh Johnson at QB? He's 3K, right? So, like, I don't need Josh Johnson to have 350 yards and 5 touchdowns for Vernon Davis to have a good enough day to satisfy his salary. I need 4 catches for 50 yards, and if he gets a touchdown, then he's like more than 5x his salary. Like, it's a very modest day for a 3K wide receiver. Quarterbacks is tougher for them to get up. Reason for Pascal versus Gallup, you already have. Okay, that's fine then. I get it. Well, that sucks. Roach. Anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it for this week. I think we fielded a ton of questions. Thank y'all for being here once again. If you're new to the YouTube channel, please make sure that you subscribe before you get out of here. There's the subscribe button. Drop a like on the video down below. All my socials are down below, down there. And here's another video for you guys to check out. I'll catch you later. We'll be live on Sunday on Twitch for the Anti-Tinkercast. Catch you guys later. Bye.